Hi, AP Bio class. So this is kind of the first mini lab I'm going to have you guys do where you're following along and I'm learning about the pause button. So what we're going to do, this is your cool glass of water where I'm going to do a couple different parts and I'll pause at different times so you can answer questions. So what you're going to do is using water's molecular structure, try to figure out what you're witnessing here. So there are going to be three parts. And what you're doing is watching the pattern of how ice melts. The first scenario you're going to see is how ice melts in just purely distilled water. And so if you can see my label here, there it is. It's going to be nothing fancy, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the time on my cell phone, and I'm not going to make you watch the whole doggone thing because it's like watching paint dry. But then what we'll do, and I'm going to do it in the same thing in two glasses, but I've frozen a bunch of ice with some blue dye, maybe so you can see it a little bit better. I don't know if it's going to make that much of a difference. The second thing you're going to do is the same thing, but watch how ice melts in salt water. Because there should be something different. It's going to be subtle, and it might be a little bit hard to see. But not only do I want you to see how it melts, but how long it takes to melt. And the third thing I'm going to do is that even though it's not in the handout, I want you to see it because you'll see in later units how ice melts in oil. Okay, so three things. So I'm going to hit the pause button. I'll be back in a little bit to set up scenario one. Hey guys, so I'm back, and I want you to see that these cups are relatively even. And I've got my two cubes. I got my clear one, and this one's nice and pretty. I'm really proud of myself, but in this case I am. And so I'm going to keep track here of how long it takes for them to melt, and that part I've got for you. But when I drop these in there, I want you to notice how high up or low down the ice cube seems to get in the water, because that's going to be key. And then, does it seem to rise up? Does it seem to sink way down? And then see if you can notice how things are kind of swirling in there, okay? So I'm going to just get these guys. And it's not going to be perfect timing here because I don't have octopus hands. All right. And we're rolling. So I don't know if you can see this super well, but if you look where the ice is sitting in the water in these clear cups, okay? And I do like that blue cube because it does show up a little bit better. Notice where it's in the water. And I'm going to hit pause here again, and I'll be back close to when it's gone, okay? All right, guys. I'm going to zoom in here for a second because one of my glasses is almost gone. So if you take a look on the top, the clear ice cube has just about disappeared, but it's still kind of hanging on. As I drop this back down and take a look, you'll notice I'm giving things a little shake here to try to get it off the side so you can see it. It's still, if you notice when it's floating, it's still, most of the cube is still submerged and a little bit still just barely skimming the top. We're right at the 10-minute mark. It's amazing how things just kind of hang on even to the very bitter end here. Even though this started a few seconds early, what I'll do is I'll stop the clock when I see this disappear here. We are so close. I'm not going to make you watch this. I'll hit pause and I'll show you the clock. All right, guys. So we finally have the clear cube gone, and it was almost 12 minutes on the button. So that took longer. I'm glad I didn't record that and you had to sit here and watch me the whole time. And you can see that the blue cube is still barely hanging on here. It was a little bit bigger when it started. By the way, so you know, I just put a little bit of food coloring in there. I didn't want to do like blue Kool-Aid because sugar, when it freezes, actually does change the freezing point. And so that would mess with things. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to empty these. And I'm going to come back and we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to do it with salt water. And I want you to notice the pattern of how the ice floats and how it melts. So give me a little bit of time, take care of this, clean it out. This is a really pretty color, by the way. Kind of a nice baby sky blue. So, all right, be back in a little bit. So part two, got the same glasses with me, all except I have put in almost 3 tablespoons of kosher salt. And I think it's funny how they brag about their salt. I had worked with somebody who was kind of a salt snob, and I wanted to buy him some fake boxes to a Salt of the Month club. Anyway, damn, this keeps on wanting to go out on me. So I'm going to do the same thing. There we go. Ice. Ice. And you should notice something right off the bat, especially with the ice cube, the clear one, about how it's floating. And it flipped out, but I'm going to move it again. If you take a look, let's see if I can't get it this way. It's a little subtle, but I think you can see it. There's a little bit more of the top of the cube that's exposed out of the water. And if you do a level shot, you can see it just a little bit more. It doesn't show up super well with some of the angles that you're at, but if you hold it this way, there's a little bit more of the cube, and it happened a little bit more with this one when I put it in there. The cube didn't want to go flat at first. So note that. We'll be back. So we're about 6 minutes and 40 seconds into it. And I don't know if you can see this here. I'm going to try not to bump them. Get out of the way. But if you'll notice that on the ice cube on my right, so probably your left, that you're seeing a bunch of condensation on the outside, and it's only at the top. And on the ice cube on my left, your right, you'll notice there's kind of a layer of blue, and it's not really mixing in with the rest. Huh. So I'm still going to let it run. Be back in a little bit. Okay, guys, so I want you to see this. So here we are 20 minutes in, and if you zoom in, these ice cubes are still pretty big. I think this is your best view. You look at this glass, look where the blue is from that ice cube. So I don't know what people hypothesize, but here's what I want you to think about. In the wintertime, if you go ice skating, and you've ever gone ice skating on a frozen pond, I have. Where's the ice? Is it on top or is it on bottom? What does that tell you? And ponds, while they're freshwater, there's still salt in there. They're just not as salty as the ocean. Okay, they're not as salty as the sea. So if you go ice skating on top and not the bottom, and that means there's fish alive down there, where does the water get cold first? Okay. So what's different in these second glasses where I dump 3 tablespoons of salt compared to the purely distilled fresh water? Think about it that way as you're answering your questions. And I'll get coming back with one final demonstration. Okay? Last one, guys. So this is just canola oil. And I think we know this, but we sometimes forget because when we think of oil, sometimes we think oil that goes in cars. And it gets dirty, and so you forget that oil, like olive oil and vegetable oil, and it's a pretty clean substance. I mean, if you didn't know better, you might be tempted to take a swig. I wouldn't. It wouldn't hurt you, though it'd be pretty gross. So what am I doing? Same thing I've been doing. I do not know why my phone feels like being a pain in my derriere. Come on. 1, 2, 3. And I need to be back. Because I thought it made the point and it didn't have quite enough in there. What that ice cube is. Okay? So let's see how long this takes to melt. Almost done. You got one other thing to see. By the way, here's my feathered friend. So we're 10 minutes into it. Here's your ice cube. It's risen, but it's literally dropping the water down. It's kind of like a lava lamp. This is going to take a while. It's really neat to see because you look at it and you got like these blobs at the bottom. So, just hang on a little longer and we'll be here at the finish with the final time, okay? Jalapeno, say hi to my class. All right, guys, we're back. I can only sit and watch for so long. This would be one of these that if you were doing live in the classroom with me, you'd be running all 3 simultaneously. So we're at 30 minutes, 13, 14 seconds. I'm just going to hit pause and the reset and get my phone back because it's pretty clear. This isn't going anywhere fast. So the ice cube is started off at the bottom. As it started melting, it barely made its way to it made its way to the top. Most of it is submerged. There's like a little bit that's barely level with the top of the oil. What's really interesting is the pattern at the bottom. Unless if you mix There we go. You'll notice that those drops of water that are coming off are going straight down and not mixing in. It's almost like you've got little cells. So that's kind of cool. So there you go. All three pieces done in under 16 minutes. So answer your questions. And we'll be doing hopefully at least some types of labs or demonstrations like this this year. All right. See you later, guys. Have a good day.